What's going on, everybody? Welcome into another episode of the FF Ballbusters podcast. Thank you for joining us. We are recording this on Tuesday, March 7th. My name is Eric. That's my co-host, Will. How you doing this morning, man?
Feeling good, man. How you feeling?
Feeling good, feeling a little tired. I know we talked about it in the beginning. I didn't get a lot of sleep, but I'm still excited and amped up to talk about this episode. Before we get into it, I hope that all you guys out there enjoyed the Combine as much as we did. We're going to get into some Combine recap. But we're going to be talking about just our kind of overall thoughts, Combine recap today. What we're going to be doing, some post-Combine mock drafts. We're going to be doing some post-Combine updated rankings. We're going to be doing some more player profiles and potentially some roster reviews for a couple of our subscribers. So if you guys are interested in any of that, subscribe to the channel, stick around, and we got you with some awesome content. But let's get into the meat and potatoes of today, which is going to be our Combine recap. We're going to be talking quarterbacks and tight ends on this episode, and then we will have another episode coming out where we talk about the wide receivers and the running backs. So we'll start with the quarterbacks, and I think I know who we're going to talk about first.
Yeah, it's the one guy that everybody's been talking about for the last week. It's Mr. Richardson himself out of Florida.
Timothy.
Yeah, yeah. He's somebody who was coming into the Combine that we were excited to see how he was going to perform, because he's honestly one of the most electric players in this draft, and just one of the most exciting, or not even most exciting, but just one we feel like has the highest ceiling out of all of these players. Yeah,
for sure.
You can go ahead, Eric, if you want to. I know you've got a lot you want to say about this guy, because he's been one of your guys for a while.
Yeah, I do. So we didn't ever say his full name. Anthony Richardson is who we're talking about. I feel like most people got it, but the thing that I want to talk about off the top is that I've seen on Twitter and across a bunch of different social media platforms, people are saying we knew he was going to be a freak athlete. So like, why are we getting so excited? Why are we double counting how great he did at the Combine? And like, I understand that take. But the thing is, yeah, we knew he was going to be a freak athlete, but nobody knew he was going to be one of the top 5 freakiest athletes we've ever seen enter the NFL. Nobody saw that coming. Don't lie to yourself. You didn't know that. He had a relative athletic score of a perfect 10. Literally, like, the most athletic compared to his peers at the position that we've ever seen. He weighed in at 244, which is heavier than we expected. He was listed at 235. That's like Cam Newton size. Didn't think he was going to be that big. And then he ran a 4.43 in the 40. Like, I made a TikTok and a YouTube short about it where I said he's the same speed as Lamar Jackson. If I'm being real, Lamar's probably faster. But if we're just talking clocked 40 time, it's the same.
I mean, but even if we're taking, clock 40 time is the same for him. I believe Justin Fields, also 4.43 guy. It's just, and at 6'4", 244, that's absolutely ludicrous. I've heard some people, like, I'm not going to say experts or anything like that, but I've seen a lot of comparisons to like Josh Allen, this and that. I don't think you guys realize Josh Allen ran a 4.75. So like, as much as Josh Allen runs, he ran for like 762 yards last year. He did that at a 4.75. So imagine what this guy could do if he had that same situation.
Yeah. So incredible generational athlete, something that we may have never seen before at this position. We have to talk about the throwing drills. I didn't think he looked like he wasn't supposed to be there or anything. Like, he was back to back with CJ Stroud in all of the throwing drills. We'll talk about CJ Stroud in depth a little bit later on, but he was damn near perfect. He was fantastic in the throwing drills. And I didn't think that Anthony Richardson looked out of place next to him. Now, was there some inconsistency? Was there a little bit lacking in his ball placement from throw to throw? Yes. But he showed zip. I thought he showed good ball placement on quite a few occasions. His deep ball looked good. His in-breaking routes looked really good. It was the out-breaking routes where it was a little bit worse. But, what did you think of his throwing performance?
No, I thought that he actually impressed. I think that a lot of people who had concerns about his throwing, his accuracy, I think he shut a lot of them up. I don't think he's as inaccurate as people tried to say that he was. You know what I mean? I think that, especially with the deep ball, he was throwing that really well. So I think when it comes down to Anthony Richardson and his arm, I think that this helped quell a lot of the concerns that people had going into this, thinking that he was going to be completely inaccurate. And a lot of the inconsistencies that you were talking about, is stuff that can be cleaned up. That's something that can be fixed. That's just a matter of focus and just kind of getting a feel for more of the game, and then just getting more of that game speed under him, honestly, to be honest.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with footwork and timing for him.
Yeah.
I think we've talked about it in a lot of videos. Mentally, I think he's there. I think he processes the game. I think he's capable of good decision making.
Okay.
But footwork is going to be what he needs to clean up in order to become a more accurate passer. So we're going to go more in depth on Anthony Richardson than probably anybody else on this entire list. So we're going to spend a little bit of time. But I want to ask you, now that we've gotten through the combine, should he be considered at the 101? Rookie draft 101.
Honestly, he's made a lot of rookie drafts a lot more interesting and a lot more you got to think about it, because it's not just locked up anymore. It's not. Because this is one guy that, like we said, the ceiling is the sky. This is a dude who could come into the league and be an absolute superstar, or he could come into the league and not do much. We really don't know, but after this, I'm more confident that he could come in here and be somebody just off of metrics alone. And just seeing the way that he was throwing the ball out there. So, to say I would consider him for the 101, yeah, honestly.
He's in the running.
Yeah.
He's in the running now. Yeah. So here's my spiel on that, because there are going to be some people that say that's ridiculous. Bijan is still locked up. Even if we want to talk about it at the 102, being the first quarterback selected after Bijan, regardless, people have to realize how much upside he has, and honestly, how little of a difference it makes if he busts. And I know that sounds crazy, but let me explain. So only 8 quarterbacks averaged 18 or more points per game last year. 18 points per game is kind of give or take my threshold for what I would call a difference-making quarterback in fantasy football. Above that, you're helping your team win a championship. Below that, you're just kind of floating along, whatever. Mm-hmm. The top 8 were Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Justin Fields, Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray, and Daniel Jones. 6 of those 8 quarterbacks are running quarterbacks. Okay? Now, can Anthony Richardson be successful running the ball? Of course he can. That's his bread and butter. That's what he's going to be. Does he need to be a polished passer to dominate in fantasy? No, as evidenced by a lot of these quarterbacks. Now, Jalen Hurts improved a ton as a passer this year, but the year before he was fantastic for fantasy, wasn't a great passer. Justin Fields, not a good passer, great for fantasy. Lamar Jackson, I would argue he's a good passer, but there's plenty of people out there that are still calling him a running back. Great for fantasy. Daniel Jones, same shit. So he doesn't need to be a polished passer. He is bigger and more athletic than all of those quarterbacks in the top 8, so he can be a runner. And I know that I'm spieling, I'm ranting, but the reason I say it doesn't matter if he busts is due to a couple things. If you have the 101 or 102 and you earned it by being a bad team, then if Anthony Richardson busts or sits and doesn't play this year, then you're in the same spot next year. And guess who's coming down the pipeline next year?
Mr. Williams.
Caleb Williams. Mm-hmm. Caleb Williams and Drake May, right? I like both of those quarterbacks. So that sounds good to me. If he busts, if he sits, you're right back there with another potentially generational quarterback on your hands. Yeah. And then for those that are arguing for the safety of taking a Stroud or a Young instead, look back at those top 8 quarterbacks that I just talked about from last year. Are Stroud and Young running quarterbacks, would you say?
No. I wouldn't say they're running quarterbacks at all. They're athletic, they can run, but they're not run first by any means.
Exactly. And who were the only non-running quarterbacks in the top 8? Mahomes and Burrow. So, what are the odds that Stroud and Young turn into a Mahomes or a Burrow?
Yeah. When you put it like that, it makes the chances a lot more slim.
I like those guys a lot, but the realistic answer is that it's probably not that much more likely than Anthony Richardson developing into a decent passer. Yeah. So, the upside is there. Swing and miss. Don't be afraid to miss, because honestly, the outcome isn't that bad on that side too.
Yeah, and honestly, at the end of the day too, kind of playing for fun, man. And I feel like Anthony Richardson is a fun player to have on your team. He's going to be a fun guy to watch.
For sure. So, all right, that's the end of my rant. I hope that you guys got across how we think of Anthony Richardson. I'm not going to blame you if you take the safety of a CJ Stroud or a Bryce Young over him, or if you take Bijan, that's fine. But just realize the upside that you're passing up on with a guy like that.
Yeah, and in my heart of hearts,
Um,
man, I feel like I gotta, you know?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. If you don't know, Will has. I mean, you have the 101 and the 102, so
hmm
it doesn't really matter that much. You'll probably end up with him and Bijan.
Oh man, it'll be nice. It'll be so
Yeah,
nice.
yeah. All right, let's move on to CJ Stroud. I want to hear your thoughts first. What did you think of CJ Stroud's performance?
I thought CJ Stroud, like you said earlier, like you kind of alluded to, he did a really good job throwing the ball. But we kind of knew he was going to. He's like you said earlier, and we've been talking about this throughout the whole off season, that CJ Stroud is one of the more accurate passers in this draft class, and his play style kind of matched the drills that they were doing, and he was able to excel very well. The one thing that's a concern for me, I took a look at his draft profile, just because I enjoy looking at it. I enjoy looking at the comps that they give these guys. Did you see the comp that they gave for CJ Stroud?
I didn't.
It was Jared Goff, which I guess when he was coming out of college, I could see that comparison. Nowadays, not really so much, because I still believe CJ Stroud is more athletic than Jared Goff for sure.
Yep.
But he kind of hesitates to run. So like we said earlier, I wouldn't call him a running quarterback. That's something I feel like he needs to kind of pick up, is being able to just go when he has to.
Yeah.
But
Go ahead.
I was just saying, in terms of him throwing the ball, I've got no real concerns, honestly.
Yeah. I thought it was a masterful performance in the throwing drills. Damn near perfect, like I said. Looked easy, looked smooth. His mechanics and footwork were picture perfect. I think he's easily the safest quarterback of the group. You could make the argument for Bryce Young, but just because of size, I think we've made it clear that we're not super worried about his size, but you'd rather have a guy with prototypical size that's as accurate as Stroud is. So does this change where he's ranked for you? Because you had Bryce Young as your QB1 prior to this. Do they flip-flop for you, or does it stay the same?
They have to flip-flop for me, because I've actually seen CJ Stroud throw the ball at the combine and Bryce Young sat out. And I know, like, a lot of people are saying, you can't really knock him for it, but I have to, because there's got to be some sort of reason why he did that.
I don't think.
Or maybe
Bryce
he feels like he's proven enough, I think is what he said. Like he said, like he doesn't feel like he has to go out there and prove himself. His resume kind of speaks for itself. But
which
I don't know.
I agree with. I wish he had thrown though. It's like seeing the hype and seeing CJ Stroud and Anthony Richardson next to each other in the same gym, throwing the same passes. It would have been real nice to see Bryce Young step up there too. So yeah, I think he probably hurt himself a little bit by not throwing. But I mean, he's still the same player. It's not like Bryce Young got worse by not throwing at the combine. But I agree. CJ Stroud was already my QB1. I think Anthony Richardson probably ends up my QB1 now, just because of upside and the athletic prowess that he has. But CJ Stroud's still locked in above Bryce Young for me.
Yeah.
And then Will Levis. Is he now the clear QB4 for you?
Yes. Because the only person that Will Levis was really competing with, quote unquote, with me was Anthony Richardson. Anthony Richardson blew every single concern I had out of the water. And he's not even at 3 anymore for me in that range anymore. Yeah. So, yeah, Will Levis is definitely at 4. But how do you feel about, like, who would be your QB5 in this instance?
I mean, Hendon Hooker still. So quick honorable mention to Stetson Bennett. I thought he actually performed really well at the combine. He ran a 4.61. He was, at least in the drill, the best deep ball thrower of any of the quarterbacks that was out there. He looked so clean in that portion. I'm still not drafting him. I think he'll be a good backup. And honestly, I don't project much higher than that for Hendon Hooker. But what I have heard is a lot of buzz about Hendon Hooker going in the top 40 picks, potentially even first round. I'd be more surprised if it was first round, but early second, I could see it. And if he gets that kind of capital, he's going to get the opportunity.
I have to say, that's insane.
Yeah.
That's kind of crazy. But I guess I could see, but I don't know. I feel like Stetson Bennett, like you said, he did really well this weekend. No, there's a lot of off-the-field concerns that are probably going to knock him down in itself. Him being arrested and stuff definitely doesn't help his draft capital at all. But I do feel like Stetson Bennett did go out there and kind of impress just a little bit. Like, he went out there and did show people, like, yeah, he's a 2-time national champ for a reason,
Yeah, he showed more than I expected, and that matters. I do want to bring up Bryce Young, even though he didn't participate in the drills. He did measure in at just over 5'10", which I think was key for him. That puts him in that Kyler Murray category. If you're shorter than Kyler Murray, it's going to be tough for NFL teams to draft you. He did weigh in at 204, although I'm almost certain that won't be his playing weight.
Yeah, he'll cut back down to 190. He'll be all right.
Yeah. But yeah, I think he checked boxes physically. But like I said, I just wish he had thrown, man. That would have been electric to see all three of those guys next to each other.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's disappointing more so. I guess it's more disappointing for the fans than anything, because like we really did want to see him go out there and stunt. And like you said, this doesn't really knock down my confidence in him, but it's tough to compare a guy who didn't do anything at the combine to two guys who absolutely blew the combine away. So
yeah. No, that's totally fair. But yeah, so that wraps up the quarterbacks for me. Is there anybody else that you want to talk about at the position?
Nobody in particular. There was just one other person that impressed me a little bit. The quarterback out of UCLA, Dorian Thompson-Robinson.
DTR, yeah, he had a good combine.
Yeah, he did really well. So I think his draft stock definitely went up. He was a guy I didn't really know much about before the combine. So the fact that he came out and I do know his name now, I think he did do a great job this weekend.
Yeah, respect to him. He had a really good performance as well. So we're going to go on to the tight ends now, and probably the deepest, most freakish group like of any of the positions. Just the crazy athleticism that we saw in terms of their relative athletic scores, and just, you know, the way that they looked going throughout the drills was kind of wild. But I want to start with probably the guy who stole the show, Darnell Washington. We've been back and forth on him.
Yeah.
We've had a little bit of a roller coaster ride as far as where we're ranking him in terms of fantasy. But I'm curious what you thought of his combine performance and how that affects his ranking for you.
So just off the fact alone that he ran a 4.64 at as much as he weighs is definitely gonna shoot him up there. He's definitely gonna get drafted early. He's a great blocker. He made a great catch over the weekend as well. I've seen a lot of clips from that. People have been posting that a lot. Nice one-handed sideline catch. So I guess he's showing he can catch the ball. It's just, I don't know, man. I just don't know how teams are gonna use this guy, to be honest with you. And he doesn't have the history behind him, but I mean, he's got the potential. The potential is definitely there. So yeah. I'm a little bit more confident about him than I was before, but at the same time, I'm still not super high on him yet.
I would say the same. Really impressive performance. One of the things that surprised me the most is that, you know, he's 6'7", over 260. He was like 264. I don't have the
6'7", 264. Yep.
264. Not only did he run in the mid 4.6s, but he also had the third fastest short shuttle of any player at any position. That's insane to me that a guy that big, like, of all other offensive positions, wide receivers, running backs, quarterbacks, whatever, he still ran the third fastest short shuttle. Like, that shows how agile, how good and quick his feet are. Mm-hmm. That was not something I was expecting. Largest wingspan ever at the combine. He's fucking massive. Like you mentioned, he had that crazy one-handed grab in the fade drill. The blocking drill, he pushed the sled like 6 yards further than any other tight end did. He manhandled the thing. He blew me away athletically. He's more freakish athletically than I thought. The production profile, like you mentioned, is what scares me. He's got 45 total career receptions at Georgia. I know he played with Brock Bowers, but like, we need to see something. I knew he could catch. I know that he's really good in contested catch situations, but route running, I wasn't so sure. He looked better than I thought in that area at the combine, but I don't know. I still haven't relieved all of my worries and doubts about him.
Yeah, like, I'm not super confident, but I'm sure he's going to end up getting drafted with good draft capital, right? Because I feel like you can't not draft this guy.
He's basically solidified first round now.
Yeah, so now it's just dependent on landing spot at this point, I feel like.
Yeah, so I'm really curious to see what happens there. Let's keep it moving. We can go to Michael Mayer next, if you're cool with that.
Absolutely.
Kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum as Darnell Washington, with a fantastic production profile that speaks for itself. One of the more productive college tight ends we've seen in quite some time. I was not encouraged by what I saw at the combine. What did you think?
Yeah, he was very unimpressive. Somebody that I had been comparing him speed-wise a lot to was Jason Witten, but he actually ran a slower 40 time than Jason Witten. Because Jason Witten ran a 4.65. Yeah. Jason Witten ran a 4.65 back in the day, and he ran a 4.7. So
yeah,
that's not great.
Yep.
It's not great speed-wise, but like you said, production-wise, it's there. I don't know. I feel like, you know, tight end was kind of locked up with what the rankings were, but I don't know if I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say Will. Michael Mayer is really the clear-cut tight end one anymore.
I was already kind of questioning that coming into the combine. I had told you that Dalton Kincaid was pushing for that spot.
Mm-hmm.
I think Michael Mayer's not my tight end one anymore. Maybe it's going too far. I was gonna say I'm not sure if he's my tight end two either, but I think he's still probably got that locked up right now.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, definitely wasn't encouraged by what we saw at the combine. 4.7 is what we needed from him. If he ran slower than that, that was gonna be bad. But he was also bottom 3 at the tight end position in every other athletic testing category. Just seeing him out there next to the other tight ends that I thought were performing really well, that looked athletic, looked nimble. He was like slow and lumbering and just like looked bad compared to everybody else. So I just don't think it was a good look. Like I said, his numbers speak for themselves. I think he's going to be productive at the next level, but I think he may have fallen outside of that, you know, clear-cut tight end one spot.
Yeah, because Michael Mayer, the thing with, like, his athletic profile was not good at all. Like, we can't really say it was good at all. But yeah, I will say he gives off vibes of like that guy who's at the gym that, like, you know, you're about to play some pickup ball, you're looking at him, you're like, oh, nah, that guy, he's lunch meat. Then he goes out there, you guys start playing, he's cooking everybody, you know?
He's just buckets.
Yeah, he's just one of those guys you can't stop for some reason. You don't understand it, but you can't stop him. So
that's fair.
It could be one of those situations, possibly, but as you said, I'm not super confident in him anymore. Like,
I can see it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. All right. So there's plenty of more tight ends to talk about. I want to hear you bring up a name. Who's your next name on this list?
Somebody who I had actually talked about in our tight ends video that I had ranked at number 5, I believe, just to kick off the list, Mr. Will Mallory out of Miami. I feel like he did have a pretty good combine. I don't think, like, in terms of the, you know, receiving work that he was doing, it wasn't super top tier elite. I know his production score wasn't great, but his athleticism score did come out really well as well. Like, I think he had like 84 out of there on NFL.com by their metrics. He ran a 4.54, so he's a speedy guy out there too. I'm not sure where he's gonna end up landing at, but he is somebody I did feel like at least deserved to get brought up because he's someone who raised their draft stock a lot within the last few weeks. Between
for sure,
yeah, his work at Miami and then here at the combine.
Yeah, and 4.54 I believe was the fastest of all tight ends, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was definitely a good look. I don't have too much to add to that. Like I think you said it well. He improved his draft stock. He looked good in the combine. Sam Laporta is a guy that I want to bring up. I know he's a guy you're high on.
Mm-hmm.
I've been getting higher and higher on him as well. He had a good production profile, not quite to Michael Mayer's standard, but not too far behind it. And he actually looked the part at the combine, unlike Michael Mayer. He tested well athletically, looked really smooth in all the receiving drills. And for me, I think he firmly cemented himself inside my top 4 tight end group.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. He's one of those guys that can line up just about all around anywhere on the field as well, just in any alignment. So I am excited to see Sam Laporta. And then one other person that I feel like we'd be amiss to not bring up as well, Mr. Kuntz out of Old Dominion. Yeah.
Yes.
Testing is
right
one
down
of
the street from me, bro.
Really? Oh, yeah, that's right. ODU.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But just testing is one of the most athletic tight ends we have ever seen. It's kind of crazy. Like, I feel
also a perfect 10 RAS score, relative athletic score.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Whether that's going to turn and translate into production, I can't make that call. I don't know if it's going to, but in terms of just pure raw athleticism, he proved that he's up there with the best of them this weekend.
For sure. I think of the tight end group, he's the one that improved his draft stock by the most. Because he was relative unknown. Not many people knew that this guy even existed. Very few people have watched his tape. That's what I've been hearing the most is like, man, we got to watch some tape on this Zach Kuntz guy. I didn't know he was this athletic.
He doesn't have much tape.
Yeah, true. So he went from, probably undrafted to maybe, early day 3 pick.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah. So yeah, if you got 4th round, 5th round in your rookie drafts, I'm taking a swing on a guy like this.
Yeah, just somebody who a team's probably going to draft him, like you said, on day 3, have him on the practice squad, possibly develop him some, and he could end up being one of those guys who just year 2, 3 of their career just kind of starts to pop off a little bit.
Yeah. And then 2 more guys that I want to talk about briefly. Dalton Kincaid, he didn't participate, didn't do any of the drills. Wish he was there. That would have been cool to see. But I don't think he hurt his draft stock necessarily, but not participating. He's still getting hyped up as a 1st round talent. And then somebody that you like a lot more than I do, Luke Musgrave. I want to hear your thoughts on him and his performance.
No, I think he did really, really well as well in terms of just how he tested out athletically. Running the 4.61, it's not elite, but it's not bad at all by any means.
For his size, it's really good.
Yeah, and then he proved to be pretty athletic. Vertical jump was great. Broad jump was great as well. So he is an athletic guy. The only thing that I'm worried about, like we've always talked about before, is just his actual receiving ability. But he's proven that he can produce at the college level, at least the years that he did play. So I do think that he will be one of those guys that, honestly, I think he might get a chance. Might get drafted day 2.
I've heard people floating him in the 1st round.
Really?
I think he's going to get really good draft capital, whether it be late 1st or early 2nd.
If he gets good draft capital, he's somebody I would not mind drafting in like the 3rd round of a rookie draft at all.
Yeah, I don't mind that either. I'm not quite as on board as you are. And we talked about that more in our tight end rankings video, if you want to go check that out more in depth and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, if he's going to get that kind of draft capital, and he is clearly super athletic, I can't not get on board with that. That's something that you got to pay attention to. So I like that.
Hell yeah.
All right. So that wraps it up for the quarterbacks and the tight ends. Like we said, we are going to get into the running backs and the wide receivers in a video that's going to come out a little bit later this week. But thank you for watching. Thank you for sticking with us. We also have a bunch of other combine-related videos coming out, whether it be mock drafts post-combine, ranking updates post-combine, all sorts of stuff like that. So if you want to see that, subscribe to the channel, like the video, all that good stuff, so that you can see when it comes out later down the road. That's all I got. Will, you want to wrap us up?
Just one more thing. Make sure you guys keep dropping those comments down below. We love the engagement you guys have been given. So anything you guys want to talk about down in the comments, whether that's a question, a roster review, anything like that, drop it down below. We will answer because we do respond to all comments down below. But if you made it this far in the video, thank you so much for watching, and we love you. And we will catch you in the next one this week. Peace.
Peace.
Nice. Sorry if it felt
Very
like I was
good.
I'm sorry if it felt like I was being a little short on some of them. I was looking down here at the time and I saw we were at like 28 minutes. So I was like, yeah, I'm just trying to get through these.